Whoa, I don't even know where I am. There's people who kind of look like people, but not quite people.
Nicole, what are you doing?
I'm in a virtual reality video game.
I didn't know you were into stuff like that.
I am now.
So what kind of game is it? What do you see?
It's called Three Body, and I'm on a strange planet with strange people. And we're just walking. But last time I played, the sun came out and it burned everyone to a crisp. So this time they're telling me we need to hurry and do things before the sun comes out and burns us to a crisp.
So there's like humans there and they just don't want to get fried by the sun?
They don't.
Okay, what kind of humans?
Alien humans.
Wait, aliens are in the game?
There's aliens in the game.
So they don't look like us, right? What do they look like? Tentacles? Like, are they like microbes?
No,
like...
they kind of look like us.
They kind of look like us.
They kind of look like us.
Alright guys, we're reading The Three Body Problem with Nicole and Rebecca.
The guy who wrote it is an engineer.
Yep. Says in the back.
Yes.
Worked as an engineer in a power plant. Liu Cixin, so super smart guy. I mean, it was clear that like everything had a lot of thought behind it. So the premise of the book is that there's this woman who is living in the Cultural Revolution, and her father's a very advanced professor, and he's killed because of his, radical ideology, and it's seen as a threat to the Communist Party. And she later goes to the secret government facility where they're sending out these radio signals, and over time she comes to understand that they're trying to send them to make contact with aliens, which I did not really expect. Cultural Revolution in China, alien contact, so that was kind of a neat connection in the book.
Mm-hmm. They have these fun little footnotes in there too that give you some good insight into Chinese history, which is not something that I know a lot about. So I enjoyed that part. Mm-hmm. So after she goes to this red base, we kind of switch gears and we follow a new character who's named Wang.
Wang gets a hold of this video game, and at first he's kind of confused why all these academics are playing this game, and then he starts to play it, and he realizes it's kind of like this dual mathematical and dual like civilization problem, that there's these aliens, but they don't know what's happening to their planet and why their planet goes through these great periods of extreme heat and extreme cold. They name it the chaos and the stable periods. And they're trying to figure out what is the math behind this. Why is sometimes the sun really close to their planet, sometimes the sun is too far away and they don't see it for years. And so the video game that they play is actually released by humans on Earth who are trying to collect people who are on the side of the aliens.
The video game was the part where I really got interested in the book, because you're following these smart people. It's a good term for them. You're following these smart people as they go through their life in science, these really big ideas here. But then you jump into this video game where he's thrown into this nondescript place, and he, you can't really figure out what's going on, but then weird things start happening. The sun, it makes the whole world erupt into flames, or it gets really far away and the whole world dies by ice. And the only way that the people in this game are able to get through at all and not become extinct is to dehydrate their bodies, which this floored me. I love this part where the guy who was traveling with just laid on the ground and all the water just seeped out of him so that he became like this roll of paper, and then just rolled him up and tucked him under his arm and went on his way.
Yeah, and it can be used like as a punishment for the aliens, like, oh, you have to dehydrate, you shouldn't have done that, and hopefully we don't use your body as kindling for fire. But that's how the aliens survive during these chaotic periods. They dehydrate their bodies and then they wait for the next stable period. And the stable period is when the sun seems to be on a regular rotation. And so Wang is playing this video game. All these other academics are playing this video game. And Wang is kind of confused, like, why is this happening? And he proposes a number of theories. And the point of the game is to try and solve what's called the three-body problem. And eventually it comes out that the reason why their planet is under such duress is it's a planet, and it actually has 3 different suns that it's orbiting around. And because those 3 suns are constantly pulling and moving and changing their paths, the planet is just kind of along for the ride, whipping here and there. And so there's times where the 3 suns align and there's intense deadly heat. There's times where the planet zings really close to the sun. And in fact, they discover that in their solar system there were other planets, but by now, at this point in their civilization, they've all been wiped out because they've all been eaten up by one of the suns. And so the scientists are trying to work on this 3-body problem. How do you figure out mathematically a prediction to see when the chaotic and the stable periods are? But then it comes out that the aliens are actually less concerned with that because they believe it's an unsolvable problem, and they have a really different motivation, right?
That was level 1 of the video game, is figuring out that there were 3 suns. Like, you're just thrown into the world and it's like, what's going on? So he had to figure out that there were 3 suns, and I don't think I would have figured that out if you had put me in that game. That never would have crossed my mind. It was almost kind of comical sometimes in the video game how you would have this civilization that got to the Iron Age, that got to the medieval stage, then that got to the information stage, and all of a sudden everything would just burn. And it was so hopeless sometimes, because no matter how hard they tried, they would always wind up either burned or frozen. And later, much later in the book, he gives a little bit from the point of view of the aliens, and one of the things that they discussed among them after they found Earth was about how lucky humans were to be born in such a predictable paradise. Mm-hmm. And I almost had a hard time digesting that, because I was kind of like, well, isn't that what's needed for life, is very stable atmosphere and rotation of the sun? And I was like, well, it is a big universe. There's probably a civilization somewhere doing exactly this, struggling to get by, and we're actually pretty darn lucky.
Yeah. And so we hear a lot about Wangs Story, and you don't really think of Yi Wenji, who is the daughter of the professor who was killed in the Cultural Revolution, and she goes to the Red Coast base and is learning about these signals that are being sent out. And we learn later that she was instrumental in figuring out a way to send a radio signal extremely quickly and extremely far, and extremely quickly being 4 years at light speed, or near light speed. And then it takes 4 years for a signal to come back. And that was a real shocker for me, too, in the book, what she got back. Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. This world has received your message. I am a pacifist in this world. It is lucky of your civilization that I am the first to receive your message. I am warning you. Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. There are tens of millions of stars in your direction. As long as you do not answer, this world will not be able to discern the source of your transmission. But if you do answer, the source will be located right away. Your planet will be invaded. Your world will be conquered. Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer.
It's so scary. So what the video game did with the people who were playing it is it divided them into groups between the people who wanted civilization to be completely wiped out because they had lost all hope for humanity. And then there were the people who saw the aliens as much more like saviors. They called them their lords that were just going to come down and help us. And when we go back to the point of view of the aliens, they actually state this very interestingly. They were worried about their own society seeing the Earthlings as a kind of savior. That I thought was a really intriguing point, that you've got 2 planets light years apart, and they could both look at each other as saviors to their own problems. And I think big point of the book that he stated in the letter in the back of the book was that we need to direct our compassion towards each other rather than hoping that some outside force is going to come in, whether it be aliens or not. Some kind of outside force will come in and fix things. And he wants to say that rather than worrying about what's out there, we need to worry about what's here and try and fix it now.
The end of the book was a little bit alarmist because there's more that's coming, and that's because this is the first book in a trilogy, and the time frame goes way far beyond what's contemporary for Wang in the rest of the books. So it's a really interesting series, super intelligent author, great read when thinking about extraterrestrials and literature. So check it out.
This is the next book that we're going to read together. It is The Outsider by Stephen King.
Yeah, and you'll notice that this is a library copy, and they put their library sticker right on, like, the pinnacle point of the cover of the book. So I don't know what's under there. It could be a monster, it could be a human, it could be a box.
This is what's under there.
Alright, so read The Outsider or watch our video to find out if you want to read it. We will post about Stephen King's The Outsider next month in September.
September.
Yep. Alright, thanks.
Bye.